Okay, let's go.
Hello, Chick Chat. We're back with the Gypsy update again, sooner than we thought, but
Wasn't really sooner than I thought.
I guess. So we've had a couple of things go on. We've had a couple of deleted scenes leaked. We had Ryan go on live. We've also had a little bit of interesting gossip going around online. So we're here to talk about it. And before we do, for the millionth time, we're going to address this.
And hopefully the last time. I think we're going to leave it here. I'm going to try to convince Anne to leave it here.
Well, I only say what we've said a million times, which is we are not talking about the crime. Just because we're not talking about the crime does not mean that we are not educated about the crime. It's just such a rabbit hole that if we were to bring all that crap up, you know how long these videos would be? And it's just
Anne and I just spent 30 minutes talking about it just off the top of our heads because we started talking about how we're not talking about it. So we've seen the majority of the things that you all have seen. There are a lot of channels that discuss those things, the photos, the other documentaries, the court case. There are channels that talk about those things in depth. I encourage you to go there if that's the content that you want to hear. But the content at Chick Chat is trying to be light, even though we're covering something dark, and we're trying to cover the culture entertainment aspect that's happening now. And people might be mad that Gypsy is entertaining, but yet we are all here on YouTube being entertained by her. So
right.
I'm just doing my part in talking about it too. So
And just because we find it entertaining doesn't mean that we are minimizing the crime or whatever happened. We realize that it does play a part in Gypsy as a person and in all of this. It does play a part, but we're not really here to go in depth about it because if we did, like I said, we would be here all damn day. I mean, our last recap was 50 minutes. Now it's just based off of the episode and a couple of extra things. If we went in on the crime too, there's just so much to talk about there. And there's so many conflicting things. For one, even the show's hard to cover because there's so many conflicting things all the time. I mean, look, we're doing all these updates constantly because there's always stuff coming out. We're not here to talk about the crime. We're trying to just talk about the show and everything that
what's happening in Gypsy's life right now. If you want to talk about what happened in Gypsy's life back then, you want to parse all that out and try to figure out, be a detective. There are channels to be a detective, but I look forward to coming here and laughing at the chaos, watching the train wreck happen and talking to you all about it. So that is, I think, what we continue to plan to do here on this Chick Chat channel. So please join us if that's what you want. And if it's not, then we're happy that you popped in and popped out.
Yeah, and we're not a true crime channel. No. I want to emphasize that we are a pop culture, reality TV reviewing kind of channel. We are not true crime. It's really heavy content. It involves a lot of research. I'm not saying we haven't done our research on Gypsy because we have both done research on Gypsy.
It's an entertainment basis, though, we've watched it on our TVs back here like everyone else has for entertainment to watch on our televisions, not to sit down and take notes on it and then have to sit there and edit hours and hours of things that people on YouTube are already talking about. I know people are also talking about Gypsy's life now, but that is what Anne and I would talk about either way. And that is why we started this channel, just so that we can talk to you guys about it as well.
Right.
That's what we're doing. So we're happy to everyone that's here. I hope that we don't have to talk about this again. But if we do, then every time we bring it up, it just invites people to give us, well, if you knew this or that. And I think we just need to keep it moving. So.
Yeah. Well, just let y'all know, we do know this and that. We're just trying to remain, as we've said a million times, as unbiased towards the show and everything as possible. But it's getting harder just because Gypsy is now doing things in real time that are conflicting.
That's the thing, is I feel like the easiest way to say it is we are commenting on the current events of Gypsy after lockup. And so, yes, we are kind of formulating our opinion of her since lockup. And she's a messy girl. She is a liar. She does not like to tell people things in a straightforward fashion, and there's always information missing. Those are the things that we're learning about her, and those are basically beginning to be factual. But I also don't think just because we're learning those things now doesn't mean that her entire life was a lie, but that's not for me to decide. So everyone else is going to have opinions about that. We're all entitled to those opinions about it. But my opinion is informed just as much as y'all's opinion is informed by documentaries, what you saw on TV, what you're seeing on live. Yes, I've seen the crime scene photos, all of those things. And we can all have different opinions about
Mhm.
what those things mean. Because guess what? Don't nobody know because Gypsy's gonna lie. That's all we can agree.
Yeah. The only people who truly know what happened that day is Gypsy, Nick, and Dee Dee.
Indeed.
And I've not heard much from Nick. I know he's done a couple of jail interviews. I've seen those. I don't know too much from him. I don't know too much from Dee Dee because she is not here. So the only person right now is Gypsy, and Gypsy don't really talk about it that often anymore. She did her documentaries. She's mentioned it a couple times on the show, but unless it gets mentioned on the show or we can find some kind of correlation between something or other, it's probably not really going to get brought up with us. And that's not out of ignorance. It's just out of choosing to keep something separate. Because I think what's fun about us is that we're not getting so heavy on here. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a toll.
And that's why I think we should just leave it there as well. Let's have fun.
We're here to have fun. So let's get into it. We had a couple of leaked scenes come out, and I don't really know. Maybe you chick chatters can inform me because I was a little bit late to the Lifetime game. I don't know if Lifetime posted these and then took them down, but somehow a couple of Lifetime clips have leaked. One of Gypsy and Ken chilling in bed talking about bullcrap, and another one of Gypsy sitting in bed talking to Ken about Ryan accusing her of talking to him in February.
Yeah. And I think that this has got to be the truth because she said he pulled phone records. So phone records are from February, which is exactly when Christy said, "Can single."
Can't say go. I really think the moment she found out Ken was single, she unblocked him and had that conversation.
Yeah, no, that is confirmed. So I know we've talked to a few people in the comments going back and forth about when Gypsy may have or may not have started talking to Ken, and it was always pretty unclear. Gypsy had said until this deleted scene that it was what, like after she had left Ryan or something. Dude was already on the way.
Even if you went off of her, I thought that she was texting him in the car on the ride home with Christy, like, I'm single. I do believe Ryan, and I do believe that she was talking to him in February. Even though she was denying it the entire time, I was like, we don't know. She could be denying it, but we don't know.
Here's the thing about Gypsy too is she is a liar, but she also is a bad liar because she's pretty ignorant and not in a mean way. People might call it that in a mean way, but I'm just saying in general she's ignorant to life. She has no life experience. I don't think she even realized that someone could pull phone records and see exactly who someone was talking to. I think she just thought I could delete these messages and they just poof disappear into the ether. She is a terrible liar, but she is going to try to lie.
The audacity of her to be like, so are you gonna subpoena my records? And it's like, girl, you were on this man's phone plan. He don't even really got to subpoena them.
No, you just look on the Verizon bill. Like, who's this person?
You don't even really got to actually subpoena those. Maybe I'm wrong. Y'all will correct me.
Not if you're on the same phone plan.
So if I log into T-Mobile right now, I can see who Dean has been calling and texting. I might not get the actual transcripts and might have to subpoena those.
But you get timestamps, phone numbers, that kind of thing.
Yeah, he'll be able to see she texted Ken this day. He texted her back.
Anytime. Maybe even a duration of a phone call, I would think. So I think it's funny because it was just like I said, I think in the last episode or the one before where I'm like, she probably would have been better off just giving him a call and being honest. And she actually probably did call almost right after she found out Ken was single. And now that I'm in that reality, I'm like, wow, Gypsy, that was just
sneaky.
It was forward. It was very forward.
She wasn't doing that whole open line of communication like she always preached that her and Ryan had. We've seen Gypsy checking out long before she left Ryan, and that makes a lot more sense to me that she was already in communications with Ken, because I'm not saying that she didn't have some reason to start checking out, but I think she would have worked harder at her marriage had she not been already talking to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
No, this is all your fault, Chrissy. 100% your fault. And the reason I feel even more deeply about that, because Gypsy did reach out to Ken in February now. We know that. If Ken really wanted to be the one to get a hold of her, which he should have been, it shouldn't have been Christy. Gypsy would have responded. I believe that even more at this point because she is the one who reached out initially. So for Christy to put that information into Gypsy's head and then Gypsy to then act on it instead of Ken just being the one to come and say what he needed to say, Gypsy had blocked him for a reason because she was married. And there was a part of her, not all of her, part of her that wanted to block him or she wouldn't have done it. She wanted to try with her marriage until she found out Ken was single. And then the bets were off. She was done. She wasn't married at that point. At that point, Gypsy was divorced.
Because you got to think, too, even though she was having communications with Ken in prison, as far as she thought in her head, maybe, Ken was kind of done with her. And he was moving on with blondes. And he was getting huskies without her. And he was doing all the things without her. It's still messy as hell because we don't truly know what was going on when she was behind bars with Ken. Regardless, the whole situation's messed up. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's messy. We don't know what's going through that girl's mind. I don't think that girl knows what was going through her mind.
It's so true.
To see her like kikiing about it to Ken was pretty.
She was bragging to him. It was weird. It gave me when you're in high school or middle school and two guys like you and you're all giddy about it because you're flushed with choices of men and you never thought this would happen to you. That is what it was giving. I'm sure that that's partially how she was feeling. I know Gypsy's never been in a relationship, but as far as these real life relationships where she can go out and do things and be places and post on social media, at that moment she was living her best 15 to 18 to 22-year-old life when you're just dating and doing crazy things and making rational decisions. And I'm not saying any of that was okay because she was not that age and she was married and had all these other things going on, but those were the choices she was making.
This girl was saying so fetch.
This is so fetch.
I mean, can we really take that seriously?
Gypsy is out here just trying to throw all the spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
That's why I'm entertained by it. If you want to be mad at me about it, be mad at me about it. But I am entertained by watching this soul who doesn't know nothing about nothing be out here in front of the world showing everyone that she doesn't know nothing about nothing. Meantime, trying to lie about the whole thing and all of us figuring it out because we know things about things. It's just crazy. Tell me it's not entertaining.
And you don't love her. You just love to watch her.
I don't love her. I like to watch her. I think she's funny. You guys just calm down. What if I did? What are you gonna kill me for it? Jeez.
Oh no, don't bring that up. Then you guys would be the next Gyp.
And y'all be talking about that girl on the ChickChat.
Anyway, so that scene was really interesting too because her and Ken are answering back and forth. It seems like he's eating this up too. It's like, man, you stepped right into this marriage. You're loving this attention. It's like, why don't you just block him? Because it seems like you and Ryan just be fighting all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, Ken, you need to relax. You were supposed to stay blocked. What are you talking about? Then she has the nerve to be like, well, we were going to wait till after the divorce to announce our relationship. He's my person. And I'm just like, Gypsy, you didn't wait, but like
Gypsy could not wait. She needs the attention. She needs all of that instant gratification from every single post.
Yeah, there's a reason we knew all of this was going on before the show even aired or had a trailer.
Exactly.
That didn't work. But I think that's probably why she said to Ryan on the phone, in 6 to 9 months, I'm going to be with Ken.
Yeah. That deleted scene, I think it did actually answer quite a few of our questions. So I'm glad that we got that. It helped to clarify the timeline a little bit more.
It also helped us realize why that last episode was so choppy and weirdly edited is because there were scenes like this being taken out that incriminate her and make her look shady because she had absolutely no respect for Ryan to move on that fast.
True.
Even though she was trifling behind his back, she still didn't give that man a second to breathe before hitting him with pictures of Ken and
it was
whatever.
Like she must have been going back and forth the way that we saw her on camera in the last episode, hang up with Ryan and then call Ken, still with the heat under her bottom from asking for a divorce. I still can't get over that. Like, you know, you're sweating when you're asking for a divorce. I don't care how ready for it you are. And she just didn't even stand up or nothing.
But I don't even think she sweat. She wore a sweatshirt, said your trauma.
She is trauma. She is the definition of trauma.
Yeah.
Traumatized, traumatizing, all of it.
Yeah.
That's yo
It's
trauma.
your trauma. It's your fault. Ryan's been really going through it. That other scene, I don't really have much to talk about with it. They were just talking about if they should announce stuff, if they shouldn't announce stuff. And everyone says that Ken doesn't want to be on camera. He doesn't really like the limelight. But Ken came at a really convenient time. He's on lives a lot.
Mhm.
And from what I've heard, not what I know, but what I've heard is that they'd be making like $700, $800, $900 per live. So
Yeah. I mean,
he's
especially on that app. I mean, they see all the stuff people be throwing at them.
even with that Ryan revenue scene and everything, Gypsy has said on live now that she regrets how she handled that, and that she did know that there was like $6,000 sitting there on TikTok or Instagram or somewhere that she could have tried to collect, but it takes like a month to actually get that stuff, which kind of reminds me of Live Me in a way, because I used to be on that app, and whenever you would make money on that app, it would take like a month to actually get the funds from that. So I get that part of what Ryan was saying. I think he could have communicated that better anyways. Another thing I do want to mention before we get too far deep is we forgot about the Mia and Christy. There was just so much going on in that episode that we didn't even touch on the fact that when Mia and Christy were arguing, Gypsy was like, "You guys don't communicate very well." And I'm like, "Miss Ma'am," I had to rewind that several times. Be like, "Miss Ma'am, are you the one who's going to be sitting here telling people that they can't communicate with their mothers very well after what you've done with yours?"
This video is going to be sponsored by McDonald's.
Don't say that. I mean, Gypsy likes McDonald's.
It's French fries. You want some microwave French fries? You want to lay down? You want me to touch your arm? You want some French fries in the microwave?
Microwave French fries. Touch your arm. That's still one of my favorite things that you did. You're like, "Microwave, let me touch your arm." I'm just happy that we had Ryan even for that one moment.
I know. But, Jip decided to call out Mia and Christy about their poor communication, which they were arguing, yes, but they were communicating to each other just fine. They were interrupting a little bit here and there, but people do that when they're mad. So it's way better than...
No, we're not even trying to get into the crime or anything like we've said a million times, even in this split, but it's very mind-boggling to hear that come out of Gypsy's mouth, knowing what had occurred before. It's like,
excuse me, Miss Ma'am?
I'm surprised we didn't bring it up then when we were doing the recap, because it really did shake me that much that I had
it on my note. We just had too much going on.
It was already a 50 damn minute recap, and I cut 20 minutes, you guys. It was already real long for us. So yeah, that just got glossed over for some reason, but I'm glad that somebody re-brought it to my attention again, because when I was editing that whole episode, I was mad at myself and us the entire time. I was like, oh man, we didn't talk about
I know. I cackled when I saw that scene. I was like, what? If I were Mia, I would have gotten up at that point and left. That would have gotten under my skin in a way that I don't know if I could have described.
I think she didn't even register that comment. She did acknowledge it, but I think she was so in it with Christy that didn't really register to her. But
Gypsy and Christy and Rod did a good job of trying to tie up a pretty bow onto Gypsy made a mistake in marrying Ryan, and she was always supposed to be with Ken, and so now we're just going to support her being with Ken. And that is a reality in some aspects, but there is a lot of other things that are morally wrong and unacceptable, and things that people just don't find kind or compassionate when you've married someone and you're acting this way. So I understand that on their end, when they don't have hurt feelings or commitment wasn't made to them that was broken, like every vow was broken in Gypsy's words, I understand how they could be like, oh, it's just a mistake, and so we're going to support our daughter. Cool, that's their job over there. But Ryan is so entitled to all of his emotions and more. I wish Ryan would go live more often.
Speaking of Ryan's lives, Ryan did go live recently. I think he was on it for a while, like about 45 minutes to an hour-ish. He was on there. He's so
Spilling
funny.
tea. He didn't want to spill.
He's like he holding it and like going like, whoop, whoop.
I'm not going to spill it, and then he pour it all out.
He got almost in it, and then he'll like, just a little drop will come out. Oh, never mind. I shouldn't be saying that. Bad Ryan. He's interesting to watch. He went on there in his jersey attire as usual, and he was just responding to a lot of comments. He accidentally had somebody pop in his live for a minute, and you could tell it stressed him right out.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. He's so funny because he really is just a normal guy. Now, especially with Gypsy gone, I think he doesn't know what to do with all these people that have eyes on him and want to know how he feels and whatever. Yeah, it's just funny to watch him in his little jerseys walking around his house and just trying to make sense of the things that don't make sense, can't make sense. Will probably never make any sense.
People were really coming for him about Gypsy never loved you. He's like, she loved me. She still loves me. And I'm like, Ryan.
Whatever you gotta say to make you sleep at night, right?
I'm not saying that she doesn't at all. I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of feeling there. I would like to think you wouldn't marry somebody off of absolutely no love at all. But he does say that she didn't marry him for housing. He was very upset with the show for putting that out there. And I don't know.
How would he know that?
That's what I'm saying. It could be something internally on Gypsy's part, because sometimes that's a more internal thing. Like, I don't feel comfortable at my parents' house. I feel comfortable with this guy because I talk to this guy all the time. She makes a lot of spontaneous decisions.
Yeah.
And like Mia said, they live for the now and make decisions for the now instead of looking to the future. Yeah. And I think Gypsy very much lives her life that way. And I'm not saying that she did or didn't marry Ryan for housing. I do think that her parents did not do enough to make her feel welcome in their house. I mean, like people have brought up in our comments, Rod wasn't around. Rod barely showed up to court stuff. He might have been keeping contact with her in prison and everything, maybe doing visits and stuff, but she probably wasn't the most comfortable with Rod, because if you think about it, she didn't see him 8 years before the crime even happened. So there's a whole chunk of her life, regardless of whether it was Rod's fault, Dee Dee's fault, Christy's fault, anyone's fault.
It doesn't matter. Gypsy's still going to sit there and think, my dad's not here, he must not care about me. It doesn't matter if it was Dee Dee's fault, Rod's fault, a mix of it. Gypsy's mind is still in the world of, my dad isn't here, hasn't been here, hasn't been around in however long. And then she goes to prison and seems like they have this reconnection or whatever. But like you said, he doesn't show up a whole lot. He doesn't go to her court stuff. That is kind of strange. You could do anything, the worst thing in the world, which is bad. You could commit bad crimes, but I think my parents would still come to my court dates.
I think he went to a few, but he just didn't go to her parole hearing. And sometimes, you know, it was a commute, I think, for them. It was, sometimes things just happen. If you already weren't involved in her life for so long, maybe he just didn't feel like he should be there. I don't know. Rod ain't completely innocent in all this either.
No. I do like where his head is at now. I like what we're seeing when it comes to even how he's handling all this stuff with Ken. I mean, he can't control Gypsy. Even when they all sat down in the last episode and he's like, so we're moving on to Ken. I got to wrap my head around that. He has to kind of follow the Gypsy roller coaster wherever it's going to go. So
he's never had any type of control or parenting over Gypsy in her life, to be honest.
And that must be kind of a weird feeling to have. Like, you are the parent of this adult child, but you've never parented this adult child. So you haven't socialized them to your family culture, your values, all those things. And now you have this adult person who's looking to you to be a parent in some form, but she doesn't share the same norms and values. He's shared a little bit, obviously, but
the damage is already so far done with her too. I mean, she's in her 30s. It's not like he's picking her up as a teenager or whatever. And sometimes you have more room to grow there. She is a woman in her 30s. Who she is who she is. It's nature and it's nurture. Her nature is going to fall under Dee Dee a lot. There's some Rod in there, but her nurture, she was nurtured completely by Dee Dee. So she is going to be a liar, manipulative, maybe a scammer. There is those underlying traits there, no matter what, unless she does the real work, which we haven't really seen her do much of. She's just been living.
Doesn't sound like she's even interested, honestly, in doing the work. I saw some things going on online where somebody had, her ex-cellmate had said to Kim Kardashian herself on a live that, Kim, you were lied to, that Gypsy apparently could go to therapy, that she had access to therapy. Again, you don't really know what's what, but this is what somebody is saying. She said that she went to therapy herself, the cellmate, for a fear of mustard. I don't know if that was a joke. I don't know if that was legit. But if that's something you can write down and get access to therapy, I would imagine Gypsy probably had access to therapy. I wonder if Gypsy even really thinks that she needs therapy.
Well, it does make me wonder, though, too. I've never been incarcerated, and I don't really know what things they have available exactly. So maybe if one of you ChickChatters know, educate us. But it does make me wonder, because when she even talked about the whole little video that she did, she said, I'm not allowed to have contact with Nick. I have to go to therapy. and all these things. And I wonder if that did start in prison, because what I do remember from watching the court case, they did tell her at least the no contact stuff, all that stuff was mentioned in the preliminary hearings. Right. So it makes me wonder. Then again, I don't know. Are there therapists in prison? Because there's so many. Everybody needs a therapist there.
There are therapists in prison. From my understanding, every prison is different. But just because a therapist is there doesn't mean they're there for the general population. Mm-hmm. They could be there for people who have a diagnosis and a diagnosis only. And maybe they might not diagnose in prisons, or they might be there just as a psychiatrist to hand out medication, and kind of that's it. You know, there could be all kinds of different services available or not available. And just because they're available does not mean that they're accessible, does not mean that a prisoner can actually get to those services and be serviced by those things. Mm-hmm. So I know there's a lot when it comes to that, but yeah, I mean, there's questions about whether or not Gypsy even wants to partake in therapy. But yeah, I do think that all of the things that she's dealing with certainly could be managed better if she would talk to a therapist about it. But she's been brainwashed by a complete liar. I mean, Dee Dee is also a liar. We know that.
It's a generational curse, I think, at this point.
It is.
I worry for this baby.
The point that I made to you in text message, which I think does deserve to be repeated, is even children, I'm not saying all children, but children who were physically abused will at times also abuse their children and will repeat those patterns, not because they want to, not because they don't know that it's wrong, but because those are the things that they know. And when we learn things, we do those things and repeat those things, sometimes whether we want to or not. And it might not be that intense of a situation. It might just be bad men or being bad with finances or, you know, a lot of things. But we pass all these things on to our kids. And even if we see our parents struggling, if that's the only thing we know, that is partially what we will do unless we find a way to heal or understand that path and change it. But Gypsy is going on to do the same things that her mom taught her how to do. Her mom taught her how to be a human, just like all parents teach their kids how to be a human, except Gypsy learned how to lie, how to manipulate, how to get things out of the system at large, and how to hurt people, to be honest.
Which kind of goes into this whole Son of Sam thing, because there is a law that Gypsy is not supposed to be profiting off of all this stuff. So who's signing these contracts, right? Ryan, probably now. I mean, that's why I think a lot of this divorce is going to be taking a while, is because now they got to split up all these contract assets.
They'd have more assets than I think we thought.
Because Ryan's the one that has to be on these contracts, because Gypsy can't sign them because she's not supposed to profit off of any of this. And before Ryan, it was Rod and Christy, which is, I think, another little theory that's going around is why Christy might not like Ryan, is because originally they were signing all those documents and getting that money and then distributing it to Gypsy and whatever.
I can also see, too, on the other end of that coin, how Rod and Christy might lack the trust in Ryan that they did have in Ken. Because we were always so confused about that, right? Why is Christy so obsessed with Ken and she hates Ryan or seems to dislike Ryan? And I think, yes, there's a perception, one side of the coin, where Christy could say Ryan basically took all this money from me because now he's signing for Gypsy. But on the other side of that coin, Christy and Rod might feel like Ryan had bad intentions, maybe in marrying Gypsy. I don't know what's the truth, but the same story can happen and have two sides of the coin. Like Ryan might feel like a certain way and Rod and Christy might feel a certain way, and they're all entitled to those opinions.
Yeah. Something that's also going around about the whole relationship between Ryan and Christy is that Ryan also was calling her out on more things. Like he wasn't as agreeable as Ken is. Ken is that man seems to go with wherever the wind takes him. And Ryan is a boulder. Obviously, the big bear in the big blue house. He's got opinions on opinions, and he's not going to be pushed into a corner by a Christy or anything else. And it seems like he was more comfortable to call things out. And apparently Christy doesn't like that. And I've also heard that Christy be coming for a lot of channels and a lot of people talking bad about her. So I guess we got to keep it. But
well, to sue someone for defamation, you have to prove that they're lying. And you have to prove that they did it maliciously. And I'm not saying anything on this show that has not been out in the ether. Like, I ain't pulling nothing out of my own head. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. We're just reacting to what we are seeing and what we are hearing. And we're even making it known, like, we're hearing this stuff. We don't know if it's true or not. We don't know for sure because we're not the ones in contact with Christy, Rod, Gypsy, Ryan, whatever. And Ryan's live, he did say that him and Christy did not get along because he saw through her. Those were his words, that he saw right through her. That kind of confirms to me that Christy wasn't comfortable with Ryan because Ryan was very opinionated and Ryan didn't like certain things that she might have been doing.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that all of that has to do with money.
I feel like everything's connected, everything, and it's like a weird spider web. We're in Gypsy's
I think
web.
Ryan and Chrissy both are a little bit jealous at both times of each other about the money situation, about the access to the money. I have a feeling they're both telling Gypsy, like, we'll sign this and this is your money, but have access to that amount of money is a big thing.
I think there's even more to it than that. Just like how Gypsy said to Ryan, once somebody's on your bad side, you don't like them anymore. I think Christy is the same exact way. Once somebody's on her bad side,
no, I agree. But I think the core of them being on each other's bad side is because they have probably said things to each other or felt things to each other about this money situation. Like Christy don't trust Ryan because Christy will never trust that Ryan's just going to marry this girl and all of a sudden gets to sign all these papers. She's not going to trust that inherently, and she's entitled to that. But I think Ryan has also put in Gypsy's ear, well, you know, Christy probably doesn't like me because I'm the one signing all these papers now. And then Gypsy's going to go run over to Christy and say, well, Ryan told me, meh, 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 meh. So, yes, I think that they're all talking crap about each other, but I think it all still boils down to they're arguing about who has access to this money.
Right. And I'm not saying that either side was mishandling her money. I can't help but put it out there that Ryan still has his job. He still goes to work every day. It's not like he was planning on living off this money for the rest of his life. He still kept his career going. And well, what he wants to say is that Ken is not that way. That Ken doesn't have a job. That Ken is living off of Gypsy. That Gypsy's paying Ken's rent or whatever the case.
I wonder when the last time Ken worked was.
Yeah, I've Googled what does Ken Euchre do, and it says he's a bartender, but he did move. So he moved from Texas to Louisiana. Is he still a bartender? Because that is a job if he's still doing that. But he's also on live a lot with Gypsy.
Yeah.
And they're making money off those lives. I still think it's rather convenient that when Ken decided to poke his head back in, is right when the show is taking off, right when she's about to be making money on social media.
And I don't know when she signed that book deal, but it seems like it was right around when she got out of prison.
Probably around the same time of the first documentary that came out in 2024. So I don't know. I think everybody's a little bit shady here.
A lot shady.
Yeah, everybody's a lot shady here. But when it comes to Ken too, people were in Ryan's live like Team Ken, and y'all are weird for that. Like why?
Same thing with the message we're trying to say at the beginning. Like, go to Ken's channel then. What do you mean?
Yeah, then that's what Ryan said. He's like, y'all go over there.
You're on the wrong channel. Sorry.
I agree with him on that. I'll need to go over there and do that unless it's Ken himself, which, I don't know, whatever. But
I heard that Ken was in some of Ryan's live sending him roses and stuff.
People were saying that, but then I also seen comments that were like, no, it wasn't him. So who's to know? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, all this stuff is hearsay. That's why I'm not over here trying to act like what I'm saying is factual. I'm saying what I saw and talking about it. And eating McDonald's French fries.
They've obviously gotten wind of a lot of his lives because, I mean, Gypsy's responded to things here and there.
They're having like a little live off back and forth. People are making YouTube videos about it, writing articles about it. I mean, the show might as well have continued.
To be continued. Apparently, they don't even know for sure if it's continued or not. Gypsy is saying that she was surprised, like us, that she saw to be continued on there because nobody signed anything. I think there will be another season because I've also heard that Gypsy isn't handling her money very well. Yeah. And that's to be expected because she's never had to handle money a day in her life.
Yeah, even she said that.
And even with the money that comes in and it's not in her name, it's all messy. She can't profit off of this stuff, technically. And I don't even think she should be. I think that that's kind of weird how they're getting around all that. But to each their own.
But there's always a way around something.
I mean, even OJ did it. Remember when OJ tried to put out that book, If I Did It?
In the book, The Hypothetical.
He was trying to get around paying the families. Well, then the family took him to court and they were able to get the rights to the book. So anything now that the book makes was going to them.
Makes me curious too. Where's the line with that? You know, Not that I'm trying to justify, but I just wonder, like, there's obvious parts where obviously you can't, like OJ did, write a book
hypothetical
about how you did it and profit off of that.
I hate to say this, but this is hypothetical.
Like, that's pretty egregious. But I wonder about what Gypsy's doing. Right now, if she gets on live and she makes a post strictly about her pregnancy, is she allowed to profit off of that? Or is she not allowed to profit off of anything because she's only known for what she did? Like,
And I guess
details.
a lot of states don't even have that Son of Sam law.
Yeah, I think it's like pretty 50-50.
It's a really sticky situation, but it does feel a little bit icky to see somebody who's done this kind of act profit off of it, become social media famous, become reality show famous. Because like I said in a previous episode, could you imagine Ted Bundy getting out of prison and life after lockup with Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer or something like that? Like,
yeah, I mean, we have to acknowledge our own role in it, right? Here we are on a YouTube channel that we've gotten lots of subscribers off of Gypsy Rose in those videos. Talking about it and kind of making her infamy even more infamous. And I'm not saying we single-handedly have done that, obviously not. I mean, the world is just kind of captivated by the situation. So I don't know what it is that made it different than Ted Bundy or whatever. But yeah, and that's what makes me wonder with these laws, where is the boundary when it comes to income? Because you and I are trying really hard to toe a line of current versus past events when it comes to Gypsy. But how does that work when it comes to the income that she's able to have? Because I can watch that show, and unless Dee Dee is brought up, I can try to compartmentalize and just watch the show, right? And watch her become pregnant and cheat on a man and see another man and have a relationship with her dad. None of that stuff has to do with what happened to Dee Dee directly. So I wonder about profiting off of that. I don't know.
All I know is somewhere up there, Dee Dee's proud that she's able to monetize off of all this shit. Y'all are gonna come for me for that comment, but it's just because she was trying to get a lot of celebrity endorsements and all that crap. Even though Dee Dee would be so pissed off with what happened to her, I still think there's a little part of her that's like,
she wanted Gypsy to be a star.
Yep, she's something. I say she's more of like a meteor. We do have to acknowledge that time to time that there is a lot of dysfunction.
But isn't that why we all watch it? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but I think that's why we all watch reality TV, because we like to watch a mess and talk about it
and not live in it. So something else with this live is that Ryan really was trying to go after Ken, and he keep doing this thing where he's like, "Oh, I was gonna say this, but can't say that. And Ken, don't you need to get a job? Ken, you're gonna be a whole father and you ain't got a job." I do wonder what the hell Ken is doing. And Gypsy's really just supporting this man. He seems like a grifter to me, Ken. And there's also things coming out that are being alleged with Ken and what he prefers, men or women or both. And people are saying that they've met him on Hinge. There are comments that are coming out where he's making suggestive comments to some coworkers. I don't know how legit comments are. I mean, usually guys don't talk like that to each other, but I'm not saying I've never heard a man say some weird things to another man who is straight. But
right. I feel like we do also need to take all these other things with a grain of salt as well. I know that we can't believe Gypsy at face value, but I don't think that that necessarily means that we can believe all these contradictory statements at face value either, because people do things for likes and clicks and views. That's social media.
I need to see the text. I need to see the receipts. Yeah. And if y'all can point us to those receipts, by all means, point us to those receipts. If those Hinge people got messages or whatever, if they got screen grabs of his profile, because him being on Hinge would be quite weird to me. But I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm just saying I've never actually seen real receipts on a lot of this stuff. But I think it's because Ken is just so weird and vague all the time anyways. It's hard to know what the hell that guy's thinking or is going on in that man's head. He tries to play the good guy a lot. I don't think anybody in this situation is 100% the good guy. But that's neither here nor there.
Honestly, I feel like the closest to a good guy is Ryan. I don't think Gypsy and Ryan should have been married, but I think Ryan has been great in this whole situation, especially after.
Ryan could have drug her through the mud so many times. I mean, you know that man's got screenshots on screenshots, but he's going to be taking it to court first.
Yeah,
and the scene that came out about her being on there in February, like, yeah, he's going to subpoena those records. He's going to do everything he can, because first, Gypsy was asking for alimony. At least that's what's been reported by many an article, is that at first she was asking for alimony. And
Right.
he did not need to be giving that girl alimony. Any reason.
I think that's what Gypsy's ignorance showing too. I think she just thinks if you get a divorce, then you get alimony. I think she's just dumb. No alimony from a teacher that lives in an apartment. You're gonna get like $4 a month.
You almost got this man evicted from his apartment because you weren't even
Yeah.
on the lease, allegedly. So
Yeah.
what are you gonna get from him? You left him with the dog. He's got to pay for the dog now, and I don't know. It's just a mess.
Gypsy should be paying Pixie support to Ryan.
She should be paying some Pixie support.
He's the one who came up with this Pixie.
Yeah, you even need to be paying some Pixie support, if anything. Poor Pix. He did also mention Gypsy didn't want Pixie because people were saying, why don't you just give her Pixie? And we saw the scene. She left Pixie there. She gave her a nice big hug and a little nose snuggle. She was crying. She was upset, but she left the dog. I mean, that was Gypsy's choice to leave that dog. So
let's be real. Ryan is more suited to take care of this dog right now, too. I'm just praying that in 6 to 9 months, something turns around for Gyp because we're going to have another human involved at that point.
And the paternity keeps coming back up again and again and again. And I'm just saying, we're not going to know until these people take a paternity test. The timelines are just getting more and more messy. The cellmate was saying something about seeing a pregnancy test. Ryan has said something about seeing a pregnancy test in April. Some people are saying that she had a false positive then. Some people are saying that she had a false negative before her surgery. We're really not going to truly know until this test is taken. And we're not going to know until January, December, February. And I know some people are kind of like, well, if the baby's born in December, then it's not Ken's or whatever.
It's probably more likely, but you got to take a test at this point. There is a 2-month span that is questionable. And 2 months when it comes to pregnancy is, especially the first 2 months. You might not even know you're pregnant in the first 2 months.
Some kids are born early. Some kids are born late. I was 3 weeks late. I was supposed to be born in a whole different year, you guys. I was supposed to be born December 26th of 1992. I was born in January 19th of 1993. That's a 3-week late. I know they don't really let you go that late anymore, but I'm just saying it's not impossible for her to either be late or early. It can happen, especially early. Sometimes, especially with the first pregnancy and stuff, a lot of people do go early. It can happen.
I mean, I know at some point they can do some measurements of the baby and determine more accurately the due date, but they would determine the due date based on your last period and add in a couple days or minus a couple of whatever. You know, it's kind of like a plug and play type of algorithm going on.
Yeah.
Just this is the day your last period. This is when you're probably going to have a baby. It's not an exact thing. It's not like you turn the oven on and then ding, it's done. So yeah, we're going to need a paternity test.
Yeah, we're going to need a paternity test. Yep.
But I think if she gives birth in December, it's more likely that it's Ryan's baby. I'm not saying most likely. I'm just saying there's more likelihood the earlier she gives birth.
It depends how far along she really is. If it's a full-term baby coming out December 1st, I'm gonna be like,
full-term baby coming out December 1st, I might not even need a paternity test for that one.
Like we're saying, we're gonna need to see that paternity test. I'm just as confused as all y'all. We're all trying to figure out like what the hell is going on here. Nothing is clear.
In the meantime, us YouTubers got the crystal ball lady out here just spewing information. I know everybody feels differently about the crystal ball lady, but man, does she have the tea. It's just crazy. You can't keep up with her videos.
She apparently was friends with Christy for the last like 5-ish years or something. They got into a tiff and not really, I mean, I've been watching a lot of that stuff. I'm not really like inclined to comment too much on it because we're not trying to really integrate with a lot of YouTubers.
I'm not trying to like have her come on and share more with us, but I do think that a good amount of the tea she is spilling, whether you care for her personality or not, is pretty legit. She's giving the receipts, the screenshots, things like that. I know those things can be edited, but recently just released a video that has Gypsy at the doctor's appointment asking if she can get an ultrasound, and they explained to her that she's still too early along. We don't know when this was filmed, but yes, the reason I bring that up is because I think she's kind of muddying the waters as well in like the gossip situation, which I shouldn't say muddying the waters. I should say clarifying the waters because she is coming mostly with receipts. But there's a lot of information definitely coming out of that YouTube channel too. So it helps, I think, to just inform the overall situation because Anne and I have been watching reality TV for as long as we've been friends. we're well aware that the shows are edited, the shows are produced, that they have a storyline that they want to follow. And
Mhm.
so I'm happy to have all this stuff come out on the other end of it that helps us to make sense of all the questions that we've
Yeah.
had. Because I
Mhm.
actually feel like I'm getting more answers than questions on this back end of everything. It's helped me to understand the timeline a little bit more. I mean, I still have lots of questions for Gypsy, of course, but those will never get answered. But as far as figuring out what happened at what time and when, a lot of that stuff is becoming a lot more clear, and it's just not looking good for Gypsy and her honesty,
Yeah.
sense of character. All of those things seem to be pretty shot still. So
Yep.
that's disappointing.
February, March, and April are really blurry months for that girl. We're gonna get it a lot clearer because that's the thing. No matter what it is with this baby, we're gonna get our answers eventually
In
because
6 to 9 months.
in 6 to 9 months, we're gonna have a baby. We're gonna get our answers. That's how it's gonna be. We're gonna just have to wait on a lot of this
Mhm.
because we can go through timelines, we can go through text messages, receipts, whatever, but it's really gonna be telling when the baby is actually born and there's a paternity test and it's all legitimized through the court because right now it's legally Ryan's baby
Yeah.
until a paternity test is done. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's genetically his baby. We don't actually know. I know that they were trying to conceive or whatever, but if she was also talking to Ken in February, this girl was really entertaining both. How do we even know what to believe?
Where do you draw the line? Maybe she was physically entertaining them both earlier than you thought.
Either that or maybe she stopped hooking up with Ryan as much because she was starting to detach. Like you said, Crystal Ball Lady's been coming out and telling a bunch of stuff. I mean, she's even said something about Rod having a whole other child. And
Oh man, I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
shocking to me. Honestly, that's probably the most shocking thing that I've read about all this stuff. I was prepared to hear Jip's lies and all the contradictions come out. That I was prepared for, but I was not prepared for my little Rod. I just thought he was better than that.
Well, I mean, we knew Rod was a little bit of a wild card in
But he's
some
got
way,
all these
but
girls out here that don't have fathers, and he seems to be a good father. So I just don't understand why he's not being a good father to all
yeah.
his children.
Well, it's been said that there is another child out there of Rod's that is either 6 months younger or 6 months older than Gypsy. And
Mhm.
I'm kind of leaning towards 6 months younger because he actually married Dee Dee and
Yeah.
was like, oh, I don't want to do this
Mhm.
anymore. And I think that had it been the other way around, he might have married the other person unless he was having an affair behind Dee Dee's back. I don't know.
I feel similar, but it also, as I was hearing you say that too, it just made me remember Rod had said something on camera, I think the last episode, about kind of happened the same way that it happened with me and your mother, and you made a mistake and blah, blah, blah. Literally the exact same way. Like, Gypsy got married to a man she made a mistake with, and then she turned around and had a baby.
Maybe. That's a good little catch there. I'm not 100% sure about this whole Rod having another child. This is all like alleged because it's coming from Crystal Ball Lady who got it from Christy, and I'm not 100% sure about that. I just heard her on a live talk about it. So if you would like to learn more about it, I would go to her channel. It makes me curious though, because it seems like it could line up. It sounds like this girl has a son already, so Rod might already be a grandfather. It just feels like it's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying we don't know for sure, but it sounds a little interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe we'll see this sibling next season. Maybe Gypsy will get along with her, because right now I don't think Mia wants anything to do with Gyp.
Nope, that's not true because she's planning Gypsy's baby shower and they're still pretty close and they'll be on lives together and stuff. So I just think Mia was just trying to say, because I also saw Mia address the Christy conversation on a live.
I saw it.
Mia said on a live that she appreciates the positive feedback that she's getting, but she doesn't like when people say negative things about her family, because she said, that was just a real conversation between me and my mom. And she's entitled to have an opinion about things and not feel like everybody in the room, like she doesn't like them now. She can still have her opinion and not agree with what her sister is doing, but still be supporting her and still love her and still care about her and still want to be around and stuff like that. I mean, I have the same kind of conflicting relationship with my own sister.
I feel that internal sense. I know Mia on the outside is saying, I'm here for my sister, and I agree. She feels that way, I'm sure. But I feel like she's also way more frustrated than she's
Yeah.
letting on. Imagine your life being normal, and then this hurricane roller coaster comes rolling into your life, and now you're planning a baby shower. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
She got to be frustrated.
I just sympathize with her in a way of me going through a similar situation. Like, my sister is always up and down. She had kids when with somebody that I was like, maybe it's not the best person to date right now. It's a fine line that you walk when you're just a sibling of somebody, because you can't control their actions. And a lot of times when you say stuff, they're going to take it and do the opposite anyways. And
Sure.
but you still want to be supportive of that. Like, I love my nieces. It's so conflicting though, because you're like, oh,
Well,
I want
and
to be like, I
yeah,
told you
and
so. But at the same time, you also still have to support that
they're your
person.
family. You're going to support
still
them.
your
And that's what I meant by doesn't want anything. I should have been more clear, because obviously those are the words I said. But I didn't mean let her off, never talk to her again. But I think, just like you said with your sister, there are days where you're like, I would like to not talk to this person. And then there are days where you're like, this is my sister and I grew up with her, and obviously I'm going to support whatever happens. So
Yeah.
I think that that's what I meant by that. But yeah, my words.
The sibling relationship is very complicated in itself. I think a lot of people would agree to that. Some people are just thick as thieves with their siblings, and sometimes you got a sibling that's a little bit controversial.
More so,
They
it's both. Siblings will often go through a period, either they really liked each other when they were kids and they don't talk a lot for a period of time. Like all relationships, they just kind of fluctuate. But sibling relationships are so intense.
I think Mia is maybe more so frustrated just by having to relive a lot of this, because I'm sure she's already worked past all this stuff too. All these feelings about Ryan, Ken, all this stuff. Mind you, that conversation happened probably 2 months ago before it was aired. So they all have to relive a lot of this stuff, including Ryan.
Yeah.
And I feel bad a little bit with Ryan, because he was all, y'all gonna see how it went down. And I'm like, dude, do you know how reality TV works? Like, you're not really in the picture anymore. So they might.
Right. You better
So
get on
all
live, Ryan, because they're not going to
Yeah.
show you.
Because I do agree that there's many times where Gypsy and Ryan probably had a perfectly great day or perfectly fun time or whatever.
Mhm.
And they didn't show that. And also he said, if y'all would have saw us on lives like that, if we would have did that, then you'd be saying the same thing about our connection maybe. You never do know. I do
Mhm.
kind of think maybe Ken and Gypsy really are just one and the same, because they both seem
Mhm. On all
Yeah.
levels.
But that's neither here nor there. Ken, I think, is trying to play good guy right now, but you know that when he gets those calls from her, well, me and Ryan was fighting, this man is smiling. And so is Gypsy.
Well,
They're
of
like
course.
smiling about this stuff.
Anytime, I don't care who you are. I don't care what morals you think you have. If you are chosen by somebody, you feel good. And as long as it's not the devil himself. If somebody chooses you, you feel good. It feels good to be validated. Oh, some other human likes me and thinks I'm wonderful and fantastic. That is a good feeling, period.
It's still a mess, and it's not looking like it's getting any cleaner.
It's never going to get cleaner. It's Gypsy.
I know.
Unless she goes to some intensive therapy for months and months and months, I think this is what we're going to be signed up for the rest of eternity for Gyp Gyp. I can confirm that cold French fries are delish. Do not need
to put them in the microwave.
No. Don't touch my arm either. You want to lay down? You want me to touch your arm? You want some hot French fries in the microwave?
Want me to touch your arm?
Don't touch my fries on my arms.
One thing Ryan did say in the live, he did confirm that him and Gypsy used to have conversations about not putting their kids on camera. So he does think that she might be serious about not wanting her kid on camera.
I believed her when she said that.
I wouldn't want my kid on camera after all of the stuff that you're dealing with.
I will say, though, I mean, everybody has a price. There might even be a further removed situation. If we're talking about doing a show about Gypsy being a mom, that is way far removed from this whole Son of Sam situation. That's a whole different topic. It all stems from how she became infamous, but I don't know. I feel like everybody has a price. If they named a price that she liked to have her baby on camera, I think she would do it. But I do think right now in her mind, she's like, I'm going to protect my baby. But she wants to be good. But when it comes down to actually making the hard choices of being good, she lies instead.
And you got to remember, too, she's not been the best with money. She's not really had money until now. And it sounds like she's not really being the best with money. Although I'm not in her bank account, so I have no idea. It's being said that she's not doing well with money right now. So what's the best way for her to make money? Because like a lot of our commenters have said, like we have said, she is not the most hireable woman on the face of the earth right now. Everybody knows her. You can look her up. She's a quick Google and you can see what she's done. You can see the hate comments and the fact, even if she gets a job somewhere, like let's say by the miracles of life, that Gypsy gets a job somewhere, whether it be McDonald's or as a CEO of some crazy company. People are going to be sending this job everything. Like people be sending her PO.
Remember what happened to Janelle Evans when she tried to get jobs? Everybody called everywhere. Janelle Evans tried to get different jobs, brand deals, podcasts, all kinds of things, and people will incessantly call and say, do you know who you're hiring? Do you know about this? Do you know about that? And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but people do it. And it does make people think twice about who they're hiring. It didn't work out for Janelle in any of those situations, and she's right back on Teen Mom now.
Yeah, Gypsy hasn't worked a day in her life, but I don't think she really ever will.
I don't think she even can.
She would have to get off of TV, get off of the TikTok, and she would have to lay low for quite a few years.
Paint her hair again.
Change her hair. Maybe go red
Change
this
her
time.
nose back.
Yeah, she'd have to do some things, and then she would have to wait a few years, and then to make it so this way people didn't even know where she was working. Rod's gonna be raising that baby like he didn't want to.
Sure is.
But,
you know what? Rod's missing a couple babies raised, so that's just his karma for that. He needs to raise a couple more babies. Allegedly.
Alleged salad. Yeah, ChickChatters. I mean, that's the gist of what we got for you. We've been talking about this for a minute, but I'm sure there'll be another update coming soon. I'm sure y'all got some things to say about this one. And if
I'm sure we didn't cover it all, but
yeah, I'm sure we're missing some. And if we are missing something, just let us know. We'll probably hop on the next time and cover it. And if you know anything new, if anything has come out by now, the time that you guys are seeing this, and if there's anything new, let us know and point us the direction of where to find the information as well.
We want to watch, we want to see, we want to talk about it later.
Instead of just telling us to interview people that we don't have access to, come correct with the info. Squawk.
Yes, because they're going to interview with us.
So we're just a couple parrots over here. We're just squawking around.
But we are happy to all of everybody who has left really nice comments, who has just left comments in general that are not super frustrated with our channel. So I am happy to have all of you here. We got over 70 new subscribers from our last video of the last episode of Gyp. So that was really cool. I think that's the most we've ever had from a single video. A lot of views from that too. So thank you to everyone who is new here. There's a lot of you.
Sorry, Ahsoka wanted to say hi to the ChickChatters. This is my puppy. This is my little pixie, although she's a big pixie. She's trying to get away, but this is Ahsoka. Hi, ChickChat. She's a oof. She goes oof oof.
She's got a black tongue.
Yeah, she's a chow. Yeah, but thank you for joining us, and if you like us, subscribe. Leave a comment, share, like the video. Y'all really outdid yourselves on the last video. We appreciate you guys. And also keep an eye out for any of our other content. And if there is any content you would like us to start covering, definitely put your suggestions down below. We are always open to suggestions. We will catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.